for the contemporary version of this, basically you're just going to make sure that you have 3 square backs. So you already know how to make a square back and then the 2 fanned sides. For this, you're just going to make 3 the same dimensions. And then we'll go from there. I'll show you what to do to make the arms slightly different and little pillows, etc. All right, so you've got your back on, and you can tell right away that the next step is going to be to raise these arms up like this so that they meet the back and that there's not a gap. Now, it's possible to leave that gap. It depends on what style you want. Now, you may have noticed, I'm going to put that aside for a sec, you may have noticed that they sometimes have these little round pillows in the corner of contemporary couches. So I thought I'd show you how to do that. And it's really easy to make out of just a regular drinking straw like this. And so you're going to want to cut your drinking straw to, let's see here, about 2.5 centimeters, something along that line. And then I'm going to take, I've got some double stick here. I'm going to need hopefully something that I can mark with that will evaporate. It's not going to show, it'll go away, or I can remove. So I'm going to take my double stick and I'm just going to run this around. And I'm going to cover, as you can tell, this whole straw from end to end. Although I've got that sticky all the way around. Take a little slice of fabric, preferably one where you've got a straight end. It's not going to show, but just details. And put your fabric on there. And you're just going to use your thumbs and roll from the inside out. Now, hopefully, you did a little better job than I did this time with my double stick tape. And you'll just make sure that that adheres. Get around to the end and then go ahead and trim. And then you can put some glue there, or you can just trim a little better than I did and see if you can get those to just meet in the middle. You know, I need to adjust that a little bit, but that's just going to go down. It'll just get glued down. So on your edges, you can go ahead and just trim that off, trim it right up against the straw. Okay, and try to get, I've got some definite flaws going on here, but you're going to try to get up to the edge, okay, and just trim that off. And if you've got some fraying, don't sweat it yet. Oh, this drinking straw of mine is actually cracking because it's a compostable kind, and they're very fragile. So don't use that, I suppose, is good advice. Okay, so at any rate, now I need a pattern for my end. So I'm just going to take my drinking straw and try to find an end that's not all crunchy. Yep, yeah, you hear that. That's this kind of straw. Oh well. I'm just going to take that pen that hopefully will evaporate or not. You know, find a pen or a pencil where you can sort of camouflage if your marks are not perfect. Or in this case, this is a sewing pen, and it'll evaporate really fast. In fact, a little quicker than I'd like. This brand does. You really have to do a lot. So what I'm trying to do, if you can't see, is I'm just using this as a pattern to make a nice cut, and this will take a little bit of practice. If you're So now let's do some different legs. I still need a support in the middle, in the back, in my opinion. I think that that's a good idea to do. And the support is 1 centimeter, and that is obviously what the legs are going to be. So what I did, the bamboo skewer again. All right, so if you did the mid-century modern, then you know that you needed the bamboo skewer. So I went ahead and cut off the tip, and then I used this chrome paint marker that I think I got on AliExpress maybe, or something like that. And I'll have it in my description. And I went ahead and I painted it with that. Now I could use probably another coat on this, but I don't know if you can tell, it's really mirrored. It's really shiny. It looks nice. So what I will do is I'll go ahead and I'll cut 2 legs and show you kind of how this look will be. So now if you put these legs on here, if you can see these, and then glue, I'm just kind of holding this together because I want to actually take this chair back to mid-century modern. And I was looking at the support, and the support may not actually be necessary if you're using these, because they're thicker and they're sturdier. And then if you say you don't want to do the stitches, you can leave them plain without doing that. And then you could put your little roll in there as well. So you have a little bit of a more contemporary look. To go from the contemporary style to the Craftsman style is actually not that hard. The Craftsman style was in direct reaction to the Victorian era designs, because a lot of those were made in factories and were, very, very lacy and complicated looking. So our Craftsman needs to be a more masculine look, and it's a low slung couch, but it's not that hard. So with your same skills, also doing your 3 square backs, okay, obviously you don't do any stitches or anything. Officially these would be a little bit thicker, but I'm just kind of showing you how you could go from what you had to this with the least amount of effort. Okay, now the big thing here, of course, are the arms. So you're going to pick your fabric, preferably a brown, or tan, somewhere in that family. And I found kind of this fake leather looking thing. Then you're going to need strips of wood, balsa or basswood. My strips of wood, like it says here, are 6 millimeters by 2 millimeters to give you a reference. 3 toothpicks, preferably the square ones, otherwise you need to sand them square. Some paint or stain, your glues, your cutting utensils, and so forth. Okay, so let's look here. My measurements, I explain, are kind of approximate because I don't really know what your materials are exactly going to be. And as we know, every millimeter makes a difference in half scale. So it shows you here, that you're going to have 3 centimeters long in either side. These are lying flat, okay? Then the rest of this drawing, it gives you all of the things that you need. This top will be going this direction. Okay, so let's get started. These are all cut and ready to go. So they're ready to be glued. Now, I'm going to show you how to do this well. First of all, use the smallest amount of glue you possibly can. And the reason for that is anything that gets out on the surface, then that needs to be removed, because the paint is going to take differently. So we do not want that. We really don't. Now, it may happen on the back with what I'm going to show you, but as you can see on the front here, I have a little bit. I really need to kind of wipe that away and really watch out for that. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm putting this up against, let me move this up here, putting up against my line. Now this should be approximately 6 centimeters from the bottom, and it is, because this chair is a little bit more low slung, remember, than the other one. So I'm using this to my advantage. I'm using my board. And when I do this, and I can really see that this is on straight and so forth. So here's where the tape comes in. You just take the tape and go ahead and tape down the edges of this. And you can tape down this one as well to keep that perfectly straight. Oops, I moved. I'm gonna do that to keep it perfectly straight. And then as this dries, the way that I do this to keep this square is, as this dries, I go ahead and remove the tape and then add another section. You know, so like I can do this one next. And I didn't put a little glue on there. I'm really careful about my glue. I've really paid the price. I mean, the amount of sanding. And speaking of sanding, I already did do some sanding of these pieces. But of course, probably need a little bit more anyway. So I need to get this glue off the surface. And I want to bring this up, it looks like a little bit, and so forth. Oops. I may need to use a Q-tip to get that off. So once I get this side the way that I want it, then I'm going to tape that, and I'm going to be patient. I'm going to wait until it's really good and dry. Okay, I'm going to get this adjusted just so. Oh, it looks like I'm going to need to push that up and whatnot. But when I get that just the way that I want, I'm going to go ahead and tape this side, and then I'm just going to go through and I'm going to glue the whole piece together. So as I'm working here, I'm getting to this top, and it's hard to get everything really even, you know, all of those super even. So what you can do, if you've got this taped, is you can take your emery board or something and just take this and push that rail down as much as you can. And what I'm trying to do, oops, is I'm trying to sort of force that to even out if I can. And so that's what I'm going to do. And then what I'll do is I'll actually tape all that down. All right, so this is pretty dry. The glue, it looks like I did a fairly good job of keeping the glue off of the surface. If you have not filed, or if you have not sanded, be sure and sand now. And kind of get any burrs. Try to make that as soft as possible. You're trying to make this look like a very good wood, and just do the best you can on that. But do, as you are sanding, do check for any glue that's on the surface. Now, this part that was facing up is your outside. Okay, because if you look here, you know, this is where the glue probably has seeped, and this is actually not going to show. So you see you have a little, this lip, and how these are in more, the toothpicks are in more because we glued it this way. This is the right side. Okay, so I'm just looking at the other side and kind of knocking a little bit of glue off. It's not that big of a deal on the other side. I always like to check a little bit, because what's going to happen is when we put the color is it's going to show. The glue won't take the color right. So, okay, so I just had chosen burnt sienna, and I don't have stain, so I just basically am going to take that paint and thin it out a bit, just a little bit, not that much actually. And I just want to go ahead and paint. I can test on the back to see how much I like the color. See, it's the first few coats, because I wound up doing, I'm not sure how many coats until I got it the way that I wanted it to. You know, they weren't the color I wanted. And you can see there's some glue on the back, and man, it just shows up right away. So, basically, you know, I prefer to start a little bit lighter than what I did here. A little bit thinner, I mean. And that's what I'm going to do, is I'm just going to go ahead, and if the glue on the back really bothers you, then you can sand that when this is dry. Wait till your paint / stain is dry, and then you can hit that with the sandpaper. Now that you have your fake stain on here, and I'd say this took 2 or 3 coats of watered down, slightly watered down paint. Once you have this, then all you need to do is to glue this on. You're going, you know, and adjust. This needs to be adjusted a little bit. And what's going to happen here is on the side, you'll line up the bottom bar with that base, that side. Because I think I've already said a couple of times, this should be a low slung piece of furniture, closer to the ground. Okay, and I'll also glue this to my back as well, the side and then the cushion. So there we go. We go from a very distinctive mid-century modern to a more traditional arts and crafts, Craftsman piece, just by lowering it a little bit and changing the arms. Now, of course, you can take this basic idea and make all kinds of different styles by, you know, just changing the arms, doing the little tucks, the little buttons, or choosing not to. So if you enjoyed this content, please subscribe and take care.